She baked pastries, and now she's possibly facing 10 years in jail. That's very incredible if you ask me, but there's more to this story than meets the eye. So we're going to go to this website called Madame Noir. The title of the article, She Baked Pastries to Support Her Family. Now this Michigan mom faces 10 years in prison. Very, very interesting, but there's a catch to this, and I'm going to reveal the catch now. It's alleged that she used government SNAP benefits, which is it's like your EBT card, your food benefits, in order to make these pastries to make a profit. So I saw an article, and it was a pretty generic article from ABC 12, which is local to Saginaw, Michigan, and I did a little bit of digging into this because I don't want to say it didn't make sense to me. It was more, I didn't know what to think about it. And so I dug a little deep into this, and quite frankly, it sounds like she was making a serious profit. So we'll go into this real fast. So this woman, Talia C, what is it? Teneyuque? We'll just call her Miss Talia for simplicity's sake. She's facing serious charges for allegedly turning her food stamp benefits into a small business. That's the issue here. According to court documents obtained by MLive from January of 2022 to September of 2023, so that's over a year, specifically a year and 9 months. The prosecutor said Ms. Talia used her bridge card, which is their equivalent of EBT or SNAP, whatever you want to say, to buy the ingredients for the baked goods. Now here's the catch. She then allegedly marketed and sold those goods on Facebook, generating a profit from what she purchased with government assistance. According to this, she was taken into custody on August 4th. Pardon me, let's go back a little bit. They investigated her, and then on June 30th, they issued a warrant for her arrest. She was then taken into custody on August 4th, but posted bond and was released the same day. The charges are serious. One count of food stamp fraud of $1,000 or more, which is indeed a felony. It says here, under the Food Stamp Act of 77, food stamps are strictly for purchasing food for personal use and cannot be used for business purposes or resale. And I don't know about where you're from, but in many of the places I visited and or lived in, there are signs out front of the stores that says selling your EBT benefits does constitute a felony. My guess is she possibly made a couple mistakes. If she was a smart businesswoman, which obviously she's not, she would have kept serious records of the business transactions. You know, I know that there are some people who watch me who are into accounting, and they could probably sit here and hammer all day the importance of being a good accountant. So it says here, if the total value of food stamps or access devices, such as a bridge card, used illegally exceeds $1,000, the individual could face felony charges punishable by up to 10 years in prison, a fine of $250,000, or both. And this could be the reality for her. So, according to this, at her arraignment on August 13th, she was released on a $50,000 personal bond, which I don't know how it's done in Michigan. I don't know if there's a bail bondsman that's involved or something, but generally speaking, it's 10% So she paid $5,000 either to a bail bondsman, or she paid $5,000 to the court directly. So the instant question that I have in my mind is, if she's on food stamps, where did that money come from? It's possible she got it from, family, friends, a lot of people who are coming to support her. Having 5 kids like that, having kids in general is hard. Having 5 kids and being a single mom a single parent is probably a lot harder. Being a single mom or a single dad is very hard. I don't know. I don't have kids. Okay. But I would imagine it's pretty hard. So it says here that they're going over some of the basic court stuff. I'm not going to cover that. The reason why I selected this specific article is this part was the interesting part. So let's go ahead and read what the internet reaction is, and then we'll talk about my interpretation of this. So it says here, she bought food for her kids, baked pastries for her kids, and sold some. Then started doing it for extra money to hopefully get off a social service, wrote one social media user after the story was shared on the Black Media page of September 21. And again, Madame Noir is a Black website. So, I would imagine because the individual is Black and the reaction is probably going to lean towards one side. I don't necessarily support it. But like I said, I'm going to explain why there's a lot of complicated feelings on this. Let me put it that way. So give me a second and I'll get to that. It says here, a jealous person called and reported she was misusing food stamps. She needs a good attorney, which obviously she's got probably a public defender. We'll see. Another user added, God forbid the poor try to rise above poverty. Okay. Others argued that the punishment for the alleged crime was far too harsh. It's clear as day. It is a felony. And it's not like it is the state prosecuting her, but like they take that stuff very seriously, which again, if you're going to do stuff like that, you really need to have good records to prove, because at the end of the day, you have to prove to everybody that you didn't do it. I would be curious as to see the evidence that the state has. But we'll see how that works out. And then you have this comment here. Proof they love criminalizing Black bodies. Just cut her benefits if it's such a problem then. Commented one user under the Black Millionaire's Instagram page. Charging a person with a felony simply for being enterprising with their current situation in this country, supposedly of milk and honey and freedom to pursue free enterprise, ridiculous. Another user penned, why not make her pay it back and call it square instead of giving her over to the prison institution? So that's basically the article. Like I said, I found one with a bit of a bias for reasons, because I wanted to challenge my bias on it. My immediate reaction is it's a shame that she got caught, because I have seen incidences where you have like a family, they run a grocery store and they go and buy stuff at the grocery store using their EBT. EBT fraud is very prevalent in a lot of places in this country. And the reason why that's important is because, I work hard, I pay taxes. A lot of people work hard and pay taxes, and they don't really have a say in that kind of stuff. And then you have this person who possibly is profiting off. I don't know if she indeed profited. Okay. There have been articles saying that she's earned thousands of dollars via Cash App for these products. I don't know. I don't know if she has a legit business, or if it's kind of one of those hush hush things where, She doesn't have a business license. She doesn't have like insurance, all that stuff that legitimate businesses are required to have. And this isn't the first time I've seen a case like this where an individual, they had like a baking business out of their house and they got tagged because it was not quite up to snuff. The other thing that comes to my mind is, again, the commingling, because what is baking? Obviously, she probably bakes a lot for her family, and then she's like, well, why don't I just sell, some baked goods for some spending money, rather than doing like DoorDash or some other kind of gig work. She's saying, well, I have all this stuff. Why don't I do that? And of course, this is coming off the heels of those Facebook mommies that were showing what they were buying with all their EBT and SNAP benefits, which really upset a lot of people. And quite frankly, for me, it really upset me, to see that, because meanwhile, I'm spending $150 for, barely a cart's worth of groceries, and they're getting 4 carts and they don't pay a dime. I can understand where a lot of the resentment is. I do think that it's good that she is doing something, I would hope that she, like I said, I really hope she did good accounting to beat this, because I believe it or not, I actually support her on this. I don't support the fact that she used government benefits to do it, but I support the fact that she's making the effort. Because there are a lot of people out there that just don't make the effort, and that probably upsets me more than this woman who's trying her hardest to earn a little bit of a living. But at the same time, she was earning government benefits, and she's possibly using that to profit. And again, it's not just like person has food stamps and they go profit off of it. There's other people who steal like government equipment from a military base and they're selling it on like Facebook Live. I live next to, I'm in Austin. Killeen, Texas is just down the road basically. And I go on to Facebook Live or Facebook Marketplace, and I see all this stuff that is being sold, like military equipment, surplus equipment. And you have no idea if they stole it from base, from some supply house on base, or if that's legitimately their purchased gear, because a lot of people will purchase gear secondhand in case they lose something or something gets damaged or whatever. They got a way to replace it. At least that's what was explained to me. I am not a veteran. I'm sure there's others that would probably, correct me in the comments. And hey, if you enjoy what you see, please comment and correct me. I appreciate it. I like to learn. Like I said, I don't know. I'm very upset. I'm sure, because it did sound like in another article that there was a plea deal. The prosecutor said that if she just pled guilty, she would get like probation. And even though like they sit there and say, she is going to get like 10 years and have to pay $250,000, that's like the most egregious thing. This will probably be reduced, since this article came out in September 2020 or September 22nd of this year, and she was arrested in August. We probably won't get an update for a couple months, and the prosecutor is going to give deals out, and they're going to negotiate behind the wall, and she'll probably plea out to maybe a misdemeanor, hell, maybe even a ticket. I don't know how it's done in Michigan, but either way, I don't know. Like I said, I do support what she's trying to do. She's trying to make a little bit of money, but the fact that it's being done off of my back as a taxpayer, granted, I don't live in the state, but the hardworking individual is getting fleeced for someone's baking business that's probably completely 100% under the table and illegitimate. I don't know how I really feel about it. It's not good, my feelings on it, but there's other businesses that she could have done too. I know that I don't know what her skills are. It's obvious that she likes to cook. What she could have done is she could have probably I don't know, advertised her cooking skills. I mean, I don't know if she works cooking. She could probably do that, but if she's got 5 kids, she probably can't really leave the house and pay for what is it, childcare? So I don't know. Anyways, I'm gonna end it here. I know this was a short video, but it's a very interesting story because that really, like I said, I am very sympathetic. I'm very sympathetic. I don't have kids, but I do know what it's like to, you idle hands are the devil's playground, and you want to do something productive with your life and make a little bit of money, all that stuff. Like, I get it, but at the same time, if you're going to do something like that, you really, really, really have to be careful because, more than likely someone did snitch, and it sucks. It sucks that someone snitched and said something. My hope is she really kept good accounting and showed that she was buying food for her and her kids, and then she would get some scratch together to do this kind of stuff, and have kind of a little side business. And in fact, I got to be honest with you, I don't know how big that kind of thing is. Maybe I'm going to research it and see if maybe I can make a little bit of money. I got some baking gear, baking's not hard. It's just time consuming. That's the big issue. But, I'm going to, the enterprising part of my mind is really kicking off here. So now I'm wondering, maybe I should get in on this. Anyways, I hope you have a good day, and thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.